Oh, I'm just saying, like, I have like this scar, pimple scar.
It's okay. You could just be like, it's a shadow.
And my nose is not like big enough to with the shadow. The shadow of my nose is not big enough to cover the scar.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Happy Hour. Today, I'm again super excited to welcome another Gen Z guest, Shane, who will be joining us today and talking about how our childhood affects our relationships with other people. So, Shane, if you want to
Hi.
quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. I am Shane. I graduated from University of Oregon about a year ago. Since this is related to relationships, I've been in, I would say, 2 serious relationships, and I'm not sure how many casual ones.
It's
And
kind of like
currently,
hard to define,
yeah.
right? If it's casual.
Yeah. I mean, some are more serious than others, even when it's casual. But yeah, I usually don't count those as like my more like legit relationship ones.
Mm,
But yeah, currently I am single. Yeah.
cool. Right. So let's start off as we did before. Let's start off with a would you rather child edition. First question. Would you rather A, be an only child, or B, have siblings?
I have siblings. I
Simple.
would, yeah, I would always choose that.
Mm,
Yeah, I think I would say I would want a sibling because I don't have one. Just purely because like now I think it would be nice to have someone to share about kind of family things like parent in regards to parents. I think before it was more like a social thing when I was like university and early working age, then I would be like, oh, it'd be nice to have a sibling because your social, I guess, the interaction you can kind of hang around with each other's friends. When you're really young, I don't know because that's when you fight for attention and and toys and stuff. But to be honest, right now at this stage, I would say yes, I would want a sibling.
Yeah, same. Because I'm also an only child too, and like I think there are a lot of times when I feel even though I know, like let's say, my mom or just like the rest of my family who are like older, like I know like they'd be willing to listen to me and like we always have fun together as a family, but also it's just nicer to have someone who's like closer to your age, like to sort of understand your own generation a bit better, I guess. And I think like that, yeah, I'm kind of I also like wish like I would prefer to have siblings as well. Would you rather A, only be an only child raised by a single parent, or B, have siblings but no parents growing up?
What kind of question is that? Like, it's like a math question.
Oh, bad question.
Oh, that's wow.
It's like 1 + 0 or
Yeah,
0 + 1.
Like if you don't have parents, somebody must be like raising you, right? With you and your sibling.
Yeah, I guess like just to rephrase it, I think what I'm trying to get at was like would you rather have a family comprised of like only you and like someone who's not in the same generation as you, or like be in a family when where like everyone's only like your generation, your own generation?
I think having a older generation, if we put it that way, is it would be essential. I think for when you're really young, just to provide a guidance and a kind of protection, emotionally and obviously practically. So if I had to choose, I would go with the one child with an older generation.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I feel like with the same generation only in your household, it tends to get a little too one-sided, especially when everyone is trying to grow up. I think it would be like chaotic without older generation, like giving advice or telling you where you should not go, you know.
And yeah, for me, I think I would prefer the first one too. I can't even repeat what you said anymore, but with like older generation, with an older
Hashtag me
generation.
too.
Yeah, hashtag me too. Just because I think legacy and traditions are very important to me, like the core values of my life. So I think it's good to know like the perspective of an older generation or like my roots, etc. Growing up.
Third question. Would you rather have like parents who provide like tough love, or B, have parents who spoil you?
I would definitely choose tough love. Yeah, I've been through that. I'm like one of those that got like beat up for like having
Oh.
bad attitude or like getting bad grades. I think sometimes that's a little bit overdone, but at the same time, I like stayed in the States for like 8 years, and I've seen how um relaxed parenting could be over there in general. And I don't think it's a good idea. A lot of people drop out of school. People don't care about others because in their family that's, I guess, not a important thing. Like values like that, I feel like it's a problem when it's like just spoiling the child.
That's interesting because I think sometimes, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the tag of a spoiled child is really put on the newer generations, right? Because of the way supposedly in general you grow up and, both of your parents are there and all the grandparents are there. And, obviously people have become more kind of well off, I guess, in general. So it's interesting you say that you also recognize that that's not a good trend, and that's not necessarily the case for every newer generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like my generation, I mean, me being like growing up with tough love, I still feel like I was spoiled, like compared to what my parents have been through. Like my mother always tells me, what you get is nothing compared to what she gets from my grandma, you know?
I feel you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I guess that's like where it's slightly, I think I know what you're talking about. It's like you have tough love when it comes to affection and like emotional intimacy perhaps, but spoiled when it comes to like the material side of things, like material resources. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like I found something like really interesting in the, I guess, Chinese traditional thinking where education is very important. And it came as a surprise for like all my friends in the States that my parents are willing to pay for my college like all the way, and like even masters, when they basically get not kicked out, but like it's basically a rule. When you're 18, you move out and like you deal with your own stuff and you get student loans and all that, when a lot of people I know here have their education paid for by their parents as a default thing.
I think the definition of spoil, you got to put it in context. Some people, some people have different family expectations. Like, for example, if a family business, right? So you're gonna your expectation is to take over that, or accept that as your career. And then for those, generally, I think if someone, paying for your education and stuff is almost like a path there. I think the question is more like, tough love is good because there's discipline. And I think spoil, or I think what Elaine is trying to get at is the starting point for parents. If you're spoiling a kid, sometimes it's just because they love them, right? I mean, if you ask parents, I think most of them won't say they're spoiling them. They're just saying, I'm just showing them love. So I think it is a balance. But if we phrased it like that, I do think discipline and tough love is really important, because your job as a parent is to prepare them for the world. And there's no way that the world is going to, well, at least from my experience, the world does not spoil you. It'll just give you tough love. So, I mean, for me, if we had to put it like that in its really simple terms, it will be, I agree, it will be tough love.
It's interesting that when talk about the role of being parent, because you're the only one out of four of us to be a parent now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see your perspective, how like tough love.
now he's gonna overthink like everything he does with his daughter, because it's gonna affect her relationship styles in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it all the time anyway. I mean, this question is like, am I spoiling her, or am I being too harsh? And I think when you're in the situation, you know that it has to be a balance, because there's so many other factors at play. But again, there's no, I don't know if there's an answer to how to strive for that balance. So
I think it also depends on the nature of your child as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If she actually has a lot of discipline herself already, then you probably don't need as much tough love. Like, try to loosen her up a little bit.
Yeah, like my daughter does not want you to help her, even if she's only 3 years old. So like, she's like, no, I'll do it myself. In a way, it's a good thing. But then some of the stuff she does is
independent woman.
She's independent, but like, I mean, if she's playing by the window, then you gotta give her like a little bit of like you can't really do that. Like, so yeah, I mean, it's those little situations every day, which is interesting, because as again, in our childhood, maybe that happened, but I can't remember. So now I get a chance to, I guess, be the other role.
Okay, so next question. Would you rather A, be in a toxic relationship with your siblings, or B, be in a toxic relationship with your parents?
Jose and Shane, I guess you guys have siblings, so you can answer this one.
I would say parents. I would rather have a toxic relationship with my parents, just because my siblings gonna be with me for a long time, and if it's gonna go on for my whole life, I don't think I would want that. Whereas with parents, it sad to say will end someday.
Yeah, true. Yeah, practically, yeah.
This is a very tough question.
Yeah, that's the point.
I don't want to have any toxic relationship in my life.
Yeah.
But I would agree with Shane, but not for the same reason. I think whether you define a relationship with your sibling or your parents as toxic is only your perspective. You have to understand that, well, I prefer toxic relationship with my parents because that's only my perspective of thinking that it's a toxic relationship. I think at the end of the day, you will understand that they are still your parents, and they will do things not out of bad intentions to you. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like
I've heard my mother tell me that someday you'll understand when you become a parent.
Yeah. A lot of times it's just the lack of understanding, maybe because of bad communication between different generations, that you feel that it's a toxic relationship. But ultimately, if you're in a family, nobody wants to do harm to you, or you don't want to do harm to them, right? So yeah. To answer your question, it's like a toxic relationship with my parents.
Mm.
And it's something for me to inspire me to understand more from their perspective, to understand that it's not actually a toxic relationship after all.
Yeah.
You must have a very secure basis on your parent-child relationship. Are you in that? Isn't there like a quadrant for that in your grid?
I'm in the secure
In the
quadrant.
green one, right? Yeah.
And when
No, I don't know. I don't have a sibling, so I guess the toxic
right,
relationship with the sibling is imaginary.
Toxic relationship.
Well, the closest to a sibling is like friends, and I'm like, that's okay. I mean, you can just find another one, right?
Did you have like an imaginary sibling back then, growing up?
No.
Actually, I did. I
You have
did.
like a
Oh,
I
daughter,
did.
Really?
daughter, so it's like
Well, I think like I dreamed up that I mean, it wasn't intentional. I just dreamt one day that like my mom told me that I had like a secret long lost sibling, and then like they were, I don't know, in like living in Lantau Island or something. So like, yeah, and then I woke up that day thinking it was real, and I went to school. I told all my friends about it, and then like, and then it was really tough to like clean up that, I guess, misunderstanding afterwards. Yeah, but yes. And then last question. Would you rather A, have strict or controlling parents, or B, have dismissive parents?
Dismissive in the sense that they don't recognize like what you do.
Yeah,
Is
like
that-
they don't really care about you, and even if you like try to ask them for help, they just like ignore you.
Yeah, I would like that type because that fires me up. So my that's my fire for my all my motivation is that people dismissing me and saying I can't do it and things like that. So yeah, that's an easy one.
Because you're a Virgo, right? You need to like prove everyone wrong.
Yes, I was
all the episodes, Shane comes back to like the same personality traits. So like you, that's my one.
What's Shane's horoscope, by the way?
Yeah, what's
Sagittarius.
Oh, is that the
Your
first
birthday's
time we
coming
had a?
Your birthday's
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I would probably say dismissive parents. Just because I am a Sagittarius, like freedom to me, like personal freedom to me is very important. Yeah. I would probably feel better if I could do things and like mess up on my own and learn from my own mistakes rather than being controlled over and not make those mistakes.
And for me, I originally I was thinking of like having controlling parents, because I feel like in Asian societies, most of the parents are quite controlling. But then after hearing
yeah.
Wing and Shane, I realized that there are some advantages of having dismissive parents. If you're thinking of the role of parents is to prepare the kid to enter the real world, I think building the strong independence, strong critical thinking, like independent thinking is very important, especially when technology is growing so fast. A lot of times when you're trying to be controlling to your kid, it's really difficult to understand where they're coming from, because there's some disconnection, like maybe there's some generation gap or whatever. It's really difficult to impose your way onto the next generation's way. So I think I think dismissive could be a better approach.
I'm just trying to think like if people would prefer to have like controlling or strict parents, it's only because they're too lazy to make their own decisions for themselves, or like they don't know what they want. So like they would actually prefer it if their parents made all their decisions for them. Which is quite like, I used to think that was like 100% toxic, but I do actually have a few friends who feel more secure with controlling parents, if that makes sense. Yeah,
The
which
stability.
is the
There's a
stability, I
stability
think.
and routine to it. So
Yeah, like I do have friends who prefer to who have no problem at all like pursuing like the traditional I guess more desirable career paths, like becoming a lawyer, becoming a doctor, like even if it was really like hard work, they do like having that goal of stability, like financial stability is I guess in their perspective, it's like a lot is another type of freedom. So yeah.